Hello and welcome to our latest edition of the Business Spotlight interview series. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Rob Adlard from Gravitilab. Hi, Rob, how are you?
Hi, I'm not too bad. I actually have a bit of a cold, so hope hope that my voice holds out.
Hopefully, it will last for the duration of the interview. I'm sorry to hear that you're not 100%. Rob, why don't you start us off by telling us a little bit about what you do at Gravitilab?
Yes, so Gravity Lab is a fairly unique company, certainly in the UK. We offer research and testing services in microgravity and space environments. What that means is that we're providing services for people to access those environments through our proprietary vehicles, and we're helping them carry out perhaps fundamental research or product development. And there's also then a large market in the sort of testing of hardware, destined for orbit and beyond.
Fantastic. So, not the typical company that one would find in Norfolk, I think it's fair to say.
No, that's true. I mean, it's funny because sometimes people are rude about it at conferences, and if they're British, if they're not British, then they don't care and they just take it. They don't have that kind of prejudice. But I guess yeah, people think of farming and agriculture, but actually, Norfolk has a lot of high technology activity, and also even with its farming and agriculture, we're home to the John Innes Centre, which is one of the world's leading plant biology centres. So there are lots of interesting things here.
Absolutely, and it's certainly growing, as you say. We've seen that over recent years. How did you get into the industry in the first place?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I think secretly I'd always wanted to build spaceships, as children often do. I was always doing that when I was a kid, in one form or another, and then had sort of a slightly circuitous route to to an engineering career. But I originally passed through studying astronomy and then later engineering, and then sort of pretty quickly started working with people who were developing rockets, developing launch vehicles, working in projects to do with helping the UK establish a launch economy, which is still ongoing, sort of 10 years after that project started. And yeah, and then about 4 years ago, I became involved in Gravity Lab.
Fantastic. And so, since Gravity Lab started, what sort of changes have you seen in the types of things that you're working on and developing?
Well, I mean, so the space sector is an exciting sector, but it's kind of fantastic. In the UK, there was a bit of a blank canvas. Now there are lots of startups and lots of people doing things. So that's wonderful. But it still has a very exciting, vibrant sort of feel about it. It's an arena where, just limited by your creativity, really, and then finance in terms of what you want to do. So it's a pretty exciting time to be doing that.
Just running the business, what do you find you enjoy most about what you
Yeah,
do?
okay. So I think I don't know. There are several things. I mean, there's several things. So I'm kind of the ideas person. So what the business is doing is pursuing the fulfillment of ideas I've had, how I think we can fulfill a market need. But we're also doing a kind of market push, I guess, as well. So it's quite exciting. I'm often talking to people about what things could be happening and aren't happening yet. So that's sort of evangelizing, sometimes even to the UK Space Agency about things that aren't happening, to regulators, to government, talking to customers. One of the best things about running the company is the people. We've just got the most extraordinary set of people. They're from all around the world, as well as Norfolk. And in fact, it took a little while before we were able to start hiring people from Norfolk. It was sort of up until the point where we really needed to tap into kind of, sort of advanced manufacturing and engineering composites, things like that. Then we managed to find some local people. But prior to that, there'd been a lot of sort of visa sponsoring and things because the kinds of skills that we need just didn't really exist in the UK. So yeah, we've just got a fantastic bunch of people in there. They're challenging and interesting, and yeah, it's great to see them every day.
Fantastic. Sounds like such a wonderful collection of people that you have working on the team. And there's obviously been a lot of change, hasn't there, in the last few years with the pandemic and the economic uncertainty. How do you find that that has impacted business for you?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, in some sense, we were slightly insulated from it because we're just in a deep R&D phase. So it wasn't like then couldn't, we weren't at a point where there was a supply chain critical things and we weren't servicing customers, but it did make it difficult to raise funds that we needed. So that's just sort of slowed us down a bit. But it perhaps wasn't as critical as with some other businesses who were in full commercial operation.
Yes, of course. No, it makes perfect sense. So, what do you find are the greatest challenges in running the business today?
It's pretty much always funding, and then it's finding good people. So I'm always so thrilled at the people that we find, but I'm always worried that we were just sort of lucky and that the next hires are going to be impossible. But fundraising is really difficult. I think that it's not well, the UK is a great environment compared to lots of places. You've got big finance centres in London, etc. There's great deal of interest in the space sector. However, there are certain sort of structural things to think about the way it works that make it quite tricky. Not to raise some finance, but to actually scale a company is really quite difficult. And I think that it's somewhat linked to the UK's sort of now becoming kind of long-term problems with productivity, and that we don't invest in R&D enough. So a lot of UK investment money goes to companies overseas, and a lot of UK companies have to go overseas to find money. So I know people who just left the UK and gone to America to do it, and of some of the most successful startups who've been initially funded through seed funding in the UK. They've gone on to float on the Nasdaq and not in the FTSE in London. So I think there are some problems with supporting companies growing in the UK. And access to finance is always a challenge for absolutely everybody, but then particularly again in a new sector where there are very few investors who are really interested or confident enough to invest in space. And there's a little bit of reluctance around it because it's a new sector.
Yes, of course. That makes good sense. So, when you look to the future, then what are your aspirations for Gravitilab?
I would like so many things. So I want us to fulfill our mission, which is to provide these services in the UK and elsewhere across the world. I want us to be a driving factor in the new space cluster in our region, or Space East, which is brand new, very brand new, which is to drive sort of growth in the region of the space sector. I want us to play a key role in Launch UK, which is about establishing the launch economy in the UK, for which there isn't really yet. So Virgin Orbit, an American company, came and launched something here from Cornwall, and that was a bit of a triumph for Cornwall. They did such a great job in being ready to host that launch, but we haven't had any traditional rocket launches yet. That's going to happen from the spaceports in Scotland. But it's all about getting the message out that microgravity is available in the UK, and the point of that is to provide support to what I call the sort of the grand challenges that are facing humanity, all the things that are very difficult. So climate change, feeding the world, planetary protection, all these huge things, which are so well, as I could say, Industry 4.0, just to put a positive one in there that sounds like an opportunity, but the others really are threats, but they're an opportunity for scientific endeavor because they all require significant scientific and technological breakthroughs in order to solve those challenges over the next couple of decades. And microgravity is really crucial to that because it's a unique sort of laboratory where the physics is different, or the physics is true and honest. It's not polluted by gravity. And that leads sometimes to unknown outcomes. Sometimes it's about validating known outcomes. Sometimes it's about observing scientific effects which only occur in microgravity. Obviously it's a kind of environment you need to be able to access easily, quickly, cheaply on a short time scale for startups to be able to develop new products for space.
Mm. Fantastic. And just looking back then, I mean, looking through those opportunities and threats that you've mentioned there, you've also been learning and changing and adapting as you've grown through Gravitilab. If you were to look back and pick one thing that you would do differently, it's probably a tough question. Is there one thing that stands out that you would do differently now that you know everything that has since passed?
That's a really good question. Trying to think what I'm able to publicly say to differently. Some of them are things. So I'm not really sure. Well, okay, I'm sure so many mistakes, but I think they're all kind of to do with just not knowing enough and not having enough sort of support early on. So I mean, I've learned a huge amount about fundraising and finance, and I could have sort of structured that in a slightly better way. But that's just a challenge for everyone, and it's all relative to sort of what's available, as well as your goals. So sometimes you're structuring what you're doing around the environment and what's available at the time. For example, the pandemic, everything sort of changes. So it feels like yeah, the financing of the company is sort of the key thing about how long it takes, how many people you need, and it's this constant kind of evolution of the conversation with customers about when things are going to be ready, when you're going to be doing what. entirely depends on then winning the backing of an investor at the right time to be able to fulfill it. All of those things, getting those to line up, are some of the trickiest things,
Mm.
definitely. But I must admit, at the moment, I don't really have many regrets. I think I've been quite lucky, particularly in the people that we've found to bring into the business.
Fantastic. What a wonderful reflection. And Rob, it's been fantastic speaking with you today. If anyone would like to find out more about Gravitilab, get in touch, find out more about what you do, what's the best way for them to find out more?
Well, you can go to our website, which is gravitylab.space. And Gravitilab, it's a made-up word with an I in it, not a Y. Or find us on LinkedIn. I'm Rob Adlard. Find me on LinkedIn. There aren't many. There are, I think, two Rob Adlards in the world. The other one's a marine biologist. That's not me. And look us up and find out more. And we're about to need to hire quite a few people. So if you're interested in that, please get in touch. And we're fundraising as well. So yeah, find out more about us.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again, Rob. I'm wishing you all the very best with Gravitilab in the future.
Thank you.